Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the First Minister how many single crewed ambulances responding to an emergency have been deployed in the last 6 months.
First Minister.
Between June and November this year, there were 1,429 instances when the Scottish Ambulance Service single crewed ambulance shifts across Scotland. To put that in context, Presiding Officer, it represents 1.72% of the total number of shifts in that period. In addition to that, of course, there will be paramedic cars or motorbikes which are routinely single crewed. These are used to support the ambulance service multi-vehicle response to serious incidents, as well as being used by advanced paramedics to support patients with less serious conditions in the community. Single crewed ambulance shifts only happen in exceptional circumstances that can't be avoided, such as short notice staff absences or a significant unforeseen increase in demand.
Edward Mountain.
Thank you for that answer. That's really concerning because, in simple terms, single crewed ambulances cannot transport patients to hospitals. In the Highlands, where journey times can be over 2 hours, this means there is a significant danger to life. Now, in 2008, First Minister, when you were the Cabinet Secretary for Health, you said the Scottish Government's policy is clear. Traditional accident and emergency ambulances should be double crewed, with at least one member being a paramedic, unless there are exceptional circumstances. In too many instances, you went on to say, particularly in the Highlands, that practice is not living up to the policy is not living up to the practice. It is clear after 14 years of inactivity, you have failed. Would you explain to my constituents why you have failed and when single crewed ambulances will be consigned to history?
First Minister.
I'm genuinely not sure that Edward Mountain listened to the answer to the first question. The commitment that was made in 2008, which I remember very well because I was Health Secretary at the time, and at that time the instance of single crewing was significant, particularly in rural areas, and the commitment we made then to supporting the ambulance service with funding to eliminate the requirement for rostered single crewing, particularly in remote and rural parts of the country, was achieved, with single crewing now only taking place in exceptional circumstances that cannot be avoided. 1.72% of shifts were single crewed in the 6 months that I have been asked about and have talked about today, less than 2%. And let me explain to Mr Mountain's constituents why that is the case. If there is, at the last minute, a situation where a member of staff is ill and doesn't turn up to work, for example, as happens in any walk of life, the only alternative to single crewing would be not to have a crew at all and not to have the ambulance on shift. So it is only in those exceptional circumstances, and less than 2% effectively in any National Health Service, it does amount to eliminating single crewing, and the Scottish Ambulance Service continues to work to minimise that figure as much as possible.